Welcome. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Fantastic Forum. How's it going? How's it going, Ralphie? How's it going, Charles?
It's going great. Thanks.
Going great, Jimmy. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Yeah, thanks for joining. It's funny, I'm pulling up my notes here, and it said that this panel I'm supposed to talk about wrestling and coffee, apparently. Is that what we're
That's right.
discussing
The coffee
today?
wrestling panel. That's exactly right.
For sure.
Well, we'll talk about some MSP focused topics, but I got to cover this. I mean, it's in the show notes here. You know, Jared and Nadia, when they give me prompts for things, they mention it for a reason. Are you? Is this like favorite topics here? Or is this was this an error? Why do I have that in my notes? Coffee and wrestling.
Well, you know me and my coffee. I always have my mug in hand. It's my security blanket. It's my slingshot, whatever you want to call it. It's my happy place. So there it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and for us, we like taking the family to shows, get out of there, and suspend realism for a little bit. It's a lot of fun.
What do you mean?
So
Suspend?
Well, just go watch an event and have a lot of fun and yell at people and stuff like that.
You're gonna
So
burst my
people in
bubble.
the chat, if you have a favorite wrestler, drop it now. Charles, do you have a favorite one that you follow? Favorite wrestler?
There's definitely a few. I will tell you, I have a collection of belts signed by many of my favorites. So.
Oh, wow. So you have like favorites from different eras, maybe something like that?
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, so we could probably continue this discussion for the whole 30 minutes here, but I do want to talk about managed services a bit. This is the MSP panel. We're just really grateful that you both were able to join. We're going to be talking a little bit about your businesses, share with the audience, how you do things, best practices, just, a peek into your business, I guess. And I want to start out, with something that, it's been brought up a lot, but I think it's always good to talk about. There's a couple different good vendors who are partnering with us on this Fantastic Forum virtual. Huntress, Ninja One, Barracuda, Fifth Wall, Augment, and there's tons of you go to an event and there's just like tons and tons and tons of vendors, so many cool solutions, so many cool tools. It's like amazing what people are doing out there, and I talk to MSPs and it's like, wow, I want it all, right? Like I want all the technology, but I've spoken with both of you many times about the importance of finding a really good partner, right? And it would be helpful if maybe the two of you, and either one can start first and jump in, talk about how you look for that partnership and what are the main things you look for to evaluate a new vendor before you bring them into, your managed services stack.
For sure. I can start if that's okay, Rafi. I view them very differently. You have a partner who's somebody you really align with and do more strategic business with, and then you have a vendor. A vendor, in my mind, is just somebody you buy stuff from, right? And there's no relationship there. You have a thing, I want the thing, I sell the thing. But the partnership is where we talk strategic alliances. How to actually help grow customers' business and our business and things like that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And to add a little bit, when we evaluate companies, those companies that we have strong partnerships with, they tend to have a stronger hold of us. They're sticky with us. Yeah. We don't want to give them up necessarily because we have a fantastic relationship working with them, because they either listen to our feedback, they include us on their advisory councils, they take care of us when we have problems. Those are the ones that we end up continuing to do work with, and because of that, if we do hit a rough spot, we're not ready to just eject them right away. Whereas somebody who is a little bit more transactional or doesn't really take care of us in the same way, if somebody comes along, it's a little bit shinier, a little bit better looking, they're out the door.
And so, what's your evaluation process to bring something from like, hey, I saw you at a trade show, or I saw something online, somebody talking about it, somebody recommended it, to this is now a part of my stack and I'm offering it to new clients?
Yeah. So when we look at it, there's two couple criteria. One is, do we already have the thing that competes with them? That may determine whether or not we continue down the road. If we already have it, are we happy with it? And if we're not happy with it, why? And should we entertain somebody else? I will almost always, and we're made this adjustment, I'll listen to somebody at least once. But if we've seen somebody at the trade show, we've already had that conversation, we kind of already know whether or not we're going to talk to them again. I'll use two examples where the company we work with security awareness training, very happy with them. They listen to us, all the things that we talked about earlier. And when another three of them actually came to us from trade shows the last couple of weeks, and like, yeah, we have no interest in talking to anybody at this point, because they solve the problem, they solve it well, and they listen and partner with us, so that they kind of solidify their position. Juxtaposed to that, we're looking at in the email security space, we're like in the middle of two different vendors. I'm still not happy. And so when a company comes to us and has something that's really interesting and innovative in that space, we're going to listen, and we're going to take a look and evaluate. And then you don't know the partnership stuff until kind of the conversations take hold. Some of them right away. Some of them takes a little time to put together.
So it sounds like it's. Sorry, go ahead, Charles. Keep going.
No, so just to add on to what Rafi was saying, there's a couple of other elements that I also look for, and I'm sure Rafi does as well. I'm in a peer group, so before I even analyze any vendor, I'm going to ask the peer group, hey, does anybody have experience with XYZ? And get their opinion. And it's an opinion, right? People have wildly, different opinions on some vendors versus others, but I want to hear their experience, and I'll take that kind of with a grain of salt. I'm also looking for things like, do they have a partner advisory council, right? That's a big one for me. Is there a group of MSPs or whatever who the vendor says, hey, or the partner says, hey, we're thinking of adding these features. If they don't have that, then that means they're just kind of doing it what they think is best. And in the eyes of an MSP, that doesn't always translate. But I want to also see what they do with their community. So many, vendors out there, partners, they don't really have a way for people just to communicate with each other. And those three things are really big pillars for me before analyzing if we're going to do business with somebody.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like, the tech is sort of, the first thing, and it's what, brings it into a discussion. And then it's like community, references, are they, involved with MSPs, all of that. And then the third part, I'm hearing from you guys at least, is listening to the community, implementing changes, product enhancements where, maybe the general market might want it a certain way, or the enterprise features might be going a certain way, but for the MSP market, for their customers, for their partners, it needs to be like a little adjusted. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and even to that last piece, pricing and economic delivery also feeds into that. If it doesn't make sense for the MSP community from a pricing and packaging point of view, then it may not make sense. So that definitely takes into we take that into account as well.
Yeah, let's keep going like down the chain here. So you got your package, right? Your managed services that you're offering, all of your technical expertise, and then your tool set. How are you out there finding new clients or getting referrals? Like, what does that process look for your individual businesses? or maybe more recently, like, more recent clients that you brought on, could you just talk through how that came from a first introduction to, a managed services contract?
I mean, no different than most other MSPs, I believe. The majority of our business comes from referrals. They come from referrals from other clients, but more often they actually come from other industry companies because we are a little bit vertically focused. We kind of we try to move within those channels in order to get to bring in other clients. We try to do is become a little bit more systematic when it comes to that referral business, as opposed to just waiting for it to show up. That's probably that's different from a maturity point of view since starting the company. It doesn't mean that we don't stop marketing or don't put things out there. It all feeds in together. I think what most MSPs get wrong, us included for many, many years, that we focus on the tactics when it comes to marketing or sales, and then we forget that all these pieces really kind of work together in a holistic way. And even though referral businesses may be referral business, like, oh, well, why are you doing that marketing if all your stuff comes from referrals? They feed the referral business too, because ultimately that referral is going to look you up. They're going to see, are you the real deal? Do you have a website from the 1990s, or are you active on social media? Do you have other publications around you? All that stuff feeds into that same process. So ultimately, when someone comes to you that's been recommended to you, they've already heard you, have some understanding of who you are and what you're about.
So there's a method behind those coffee pictures that you're posting all the time on LinkedIn?
Absolutely, 100%. And it's funny, those get the most engagement. It's not by accident. It's because it shows our personality. It shows a little bit of insight into, who we are. And it's something outside of the, everyday doom and gloom that otherwise can plague the MSP marketing space.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I've actually been to meetings with prospects, and it's like old school. They have a stack of papers, and they literally have printed out my LinkedIn posts, right? And I'm like, you can just save that stuff, right? But, hey, some people like to print it out, put it in a little binder for it to sit on the shelf forever. But, just like everybody tends to, I don't want to say stalk, it's the wrong word, but everyone looks to investigate people. You don't think they're looking up your Twitter, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, all that kind of fun stuff just to see what your company's all about, right? They want to see the culture. They want to see people are having a good time. If they're posting coffee pictures, or, do they never post at all, right? How does one research somebody if you never post anything, right? And I can tell you how many times customers have literally called me and said, hey, I wanted to talk to you about that article you posted the other day. Right. And it's just a neat way just to have, real natural engagement with somebody.
That's great. So it sounds like, you're still getting everything through referrals for the most part, or at least the majority of your new business comes that way. But by investing in, your personal brand or your company's brand, posting on social media, getting out there, getting involved with the community is helping to amplify that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, for sure.
So, Rafi, you mentioned something about verticalizing. I see a lot of MSPs doing this. Could you talk about, is that something that you've always done, or is that something newer? And how has it worked for your business?
So when we opened up in 2008, our first clients were all in the financial services space. It's where we came from. It's where our contacts were. So it was natural that we had a little bit of connection in that space. However, we didn't really actually actively market to that space until about 4 years in. So, as being kind of the thick-headed person I am, I didn't pick up on the fact that, why are we it's a typical thing. It's a scarcity mindset. You try to cast away. Why should I say no to anybody? Well, guess what? You don't have to say no to anybody. But that's when we started focusing on financial services clients, and that was kind of our first change in trajectory. So at that point, we were kind of flat. We were gaining a few clients. Again, it's all within the financial service space. I think we had one client that was outside of financial services at that time, and then we decided to make that change, and that's when things changed for us. So it's done two things. One is it's focused our marketing so that when people come to us, especially in that space, I'm sure it's the same in other verticals as well. They like to see pedigree. They like to see, are you connected with the people that they know, that companies that look like them? And that really goes a long way. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is you start speaking their language. And when you're speaking their language and when you have that conversation, now it sounds like, oh, you actually get us. And that's kind of the epiphany moment. If somebody comes to us that's in that space because the referral knows that we're in that space, but the prospect does not necessarily, and we start talking to them in their own language, all of a sudden they open up. Because at that point, they're very cagey about what they do, how they get their business, etc. And then as we start kind of throwing, even if we throw out a few, bits of lingo at them, all of a sudden it opens everything up, and they start becoming more forthright, and they let their guard down.
And Charles, do you target specific verticals at all, or is there a certain type of customer that you found easier to work with or sign up?
So we mainly work with nonprofits, and for whatever reason, that coincides with legal. So the bulk of our customers are going to be that social services, nonprofit type, and legal. It's just a weird combination, right? But it works for us. And then when we go to these events and we speak at some of these, dinners or breakfasts or whatever, that it just further shows the community that, hey, we help these guys, we can help you too.
So it makes sense with referrals. Like you start in one area and then you're getting referred to other people in the same area. I'm curious though, Rafi, are you responsible for the fall of Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, the acquisition of Credit Suisse? Like, is this all you, or did you press the wrong button somewhere, knock these banks down?
Yeah, so I'm not going to say that I'll neither confirm nor deny that I was responsible for the crash of 2008 or this past banking crisis.
Okay.
No,
I was just curious.
No, and you know what? It's funny because not funny, but it's what it's done is it's allowed me to have, because many of our clients, we do have clients that are in private equity. We have clients in the CLO business. Many of them work with these banks or have worked with these banks in the past. And so we have a little bit of insight into what their thinking has been. And it allows us to now inform other people when we talk to them and say, look, this is what I understand from what's happened. And so we've been able to actually kind of transfer that knowledge to others as well. So it's that even just that having that connection has been helpful.
And Charles, what is it like working with nonprofits? I know sometimes MSPs will avoid nonprofits because there's maybe a perception that nonprofits don't, are harder to work with just because of budgetary constraints. Sometimes MSPs will give flat discounts to nonprofits. What has your experience been?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a different type of customer, right? So if a CPA is unable to print, right? It's like, okay, they can't print. There's 400 other printers they can print to. Not the end of the world, right? But when some of we have a couple of domestic violence shelters, when they can't print, it could be a restraining order they can't print, right? So the victory isn't that the CPA can print a tax form. It's that we have fixed something so that somebody can file a restraining order type stuff. It's a little bit of, heart love type stuff, but it's a little more rewarding, in my opinion, to help these nonprofits where they are struggling. They don't have a ton of money, right? Yes, they may be working off of donated PCs, but as long as we can secure those things and help them get their job done and help them serve their community, that's a total win for us and for them.
How would you say the purpose and meaning that comes with the work has impacted your business?
Our guys like working on those customers, right? They're usually very gracious, very appreciative of everything we do. And, not for nothing, we're kind of always the villains, right? They don't call us because they're happy, right? They call us because they're not happy. And sometimes just knowing you're doing good work, helps you sleep a little bit better at night.
Yeah. It's funny because I could see someone maybe planning out their business plan for the year and like, oh, I don't want to mess with the nonprofits, blah blah. But in the reality of it, the purpose and meaning behind it, and reason to go to work in the day and being able to help people has I'm sure such an intangible effect on the business and makes it so much better to get up, where maybe that wouldn't fit in a spreadsheet Excel model.
For sure.
Yeah. So you both are distinguished members of the MSP community. You go and speak on MSP partner panels like the one today. I see, Charles, you have, and I noticed it earlier in the green room, you have a MSP Ignite little sweatshirt on. You mentioned
Yes.
peer groups earlier. Either of you, feel free to jump in. What has the impact been on being a active participant in the MSP community, and how important is it to you and your business?
For us, it's been massive. I mean, when we first started Triado, we joined ASCII. That was kind of our first kind of foray into the MSP community. We shortly after that, joined CompTIA, but then didn't really do anything with it until Charles dragged me into a leadership role. And that was part of it, just trying to the broader community. When we're dealing with peer groups, and I've been in a number of peer groups over the years, we're in 2 right now. They're fantastic because you get super deep and super intimate with that. In fact, we're in the middle of a deep dive of one of my peer groups this week of our company, and it's like one guy says like thank you for getting naked with us. It's you're getting naked with these other business owners, and it's an invaluable feedback that you get to understand. Sometimes it's just like you're checking your own work. You don't really necessarily know or see where potential not only problems that you have, but opportunities. The team this yesterday identified all this additional business opportunity already existing in our company that we haven't tapped into. And so that's my next goal. That's my next security. And I being somebody who hasn't necessarily been great at creating goals to then go after, it's fantastic. And now you have this group of advisors, and now can help you create those goals and identify areas that you can do better.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I don't know how people do it without, a peer group or a group of advisors, or whatever you want to call it, right? Because I've been doing this a few years, we'll just say. Even myself, I run into weird scenarios that I haven't run into in a bunch of years, and I kind of forgot how I fixed it last time, right? So I can come out with a really big challenge, and instead of just making a decision, I could run it by my peers, right? And be like, hey, I'm having an issue with an employee who does X. How would you guys handle that? And then we're all going to give you wildly different answers, right? But then I could take what they're saying, what I think, and just kind of meet in the middle and find a solution that works for me. Then in the next meeting, I can report back and be like, hey, here's what I chose, here's what worked, here's what didn't. And then chances are I'm going to help by saying that somebody else who may have been having the exact same issue. right? And being an MSP is like super stressful, right? It just is. We have a lot of responsibilities, and sometimes just talking things out to a group of trusted advisors is kind of therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are both like really opening up in like opening up your books, opening up your business plans, all of that in these meetings. I find it. I said this before. Like the MSP community is really unique because a lot of other industries would see this as like, oh, I don't want to talk to my competitors, right? Like the idea of a peer group, right? A meeting of all your competitors where you share what you're doing. Like it seems crazy to someone, who isn't there in the community and has benefited from this. Did you ever feel that way, or what would you say to someone who maybe feels that way a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, there's layers, right? So you have your intimate peer groups. You tend to be in non-competing markets anyway, so you're not trading super detailed information with the guy down the street. But that being said, at least for me, if the guy down the street wanted to come talk to me, I'd be happy to show them what we're doing and what we have been doing. And when you do that, when you collaborate, it improves everybody. And I feel unfortunate that the peers in our community that don't do that, that they're missing out. It's not so much that you're putting yourself at risk because you're putting information out there for your quote unquote competitors. You're missing out on the you actually gain more than you give away. And that's unfortunate. If somebody is doing that where they're stealing clients because they're getting information from people that's been shared to them, that's going to come back to haunt them in a big way. And that would be, but I quite frankly, I've never seen it. I've never seen it from anybody who's given at all. And what are they? I don't know you probably know the statistics better, Jimmy, than I do. What is there, 50,000 MSPs or something like that in the country? There's maybe 10,000 that are actively engaged in some form of community or what have you. There's a ton of, and that's that 40,000 that don't get involved in this stuff. And they're the ones that are losing out, they're not protecting themselves, in other words.
Mm. Well, and the other thing that's really beneficial to something like that is I now have a group of people and I kind of know their business model and I know what they do.
Yeah.
Right. So in my peer group, I have one guy who's like, God level Azure guy. Right. And if we're having an Azure issue, I'm going to call him. Right. I'm not going to sit there and fight with it for a day. I know exactly who to call. I got another guy who's in the biotech space. If I have a lead or whatever, I can either refer or bring him in, do whatever. It's, with as we all know, with MSPs, resources is never an issue, right? Their techs are everywhere. No, it's totally an issue, right? So now I have
24/7 support all the time.
Yeah, so I actually have a way to really get help on a nationwide scale when I need it with people I trust versus posting something on Reddit. Hey, does anybody know, I don't know, we have one customer with Exchange. Does anybody have an Exchange guy? Half the people are yelling at me because we have a customer with Exchange, right? Forget all that. But I know who I can call, right? So that's a super big benefit for us.
Yeah.
So speaking of community, what are your favorite community events or either, this is a digital one, obviously, but in person that you like to attend each year?
So each one has its own special place. So I have a hard time picking my favorite. I guess you can say ASCII is my first love. So I have that has a special place in my heart in a sense. We've grown up in that community. CompTIA is different because as an industry association, instead of sitting across the table from your vendor partners, you're now sitting shoulder to shoulder with your vendor partners, working on problems for the industry or solutions for the industry. We're not necessarily kind of like specifically a business thing. So those are two very things. The peer group based ones, for at least the peer groups that I'm in, those are fantastic because you're bringing in people that kind of think the same way, more or less, or have the same kind of vision on their business, discussing certain things. Whereas maybe you go to another event that you're now sitting in a room with a bunch of other MSPs that think completely differently than you, and it's not necessarily always a positive. It's good to get that feedback or from that alternative point of view, but ultimately it could potentially also derail you. So it's good to also have that almost safe space, like we all think alike, let's talk about this particular thing. So I have kind of, each one has its special place for us, I think. I can't pick a favorite child.
Fair enough.
They're all our favorite.
Charles?
They're all our favorite. But it's the CompTIA events are kind of different than, let's say, the Datto events, right? They're just different mindset of people, right? In the CompTIA event, you're going to get more business focused, right? People sitting at the lunch table, whereas maybe at a DattoCon, you're going to get a bunch of techs, right? And maybe a business person or two. So different conversations happen at each table. Back when I was the managed services chair for CompTIA, we came up with the whole idea of hallway chat, right? And we would actually host events and call them the hallway chat. And to kind of expand on that, you get the most value out of a session after the session when you're having the after the session meeting in the hallway, hence why we called it the hallway chat. Because now it's like, hey, what did you think about what this person said? Oh, I love that idea, but I'm going to alter it this way. That's where you get all the juices flowing, right? And next thing you know, a bunch of people are sitting outside of a session, and then, oh, wow, it's been 2 hours, and we're still yammering about the best way to deploy XYZ, right? And then I get back and I have a notebook full of stuff I can bring back, and my team is getting better at it, but they know every time I come back to a conference, there's a notebook full of stuff that we're going to try, right? But that's super valuable to us.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. I wish we could keep going, but we're kind of out of time here. Do either of you want to leave with any closing words of wisdom? Could be about business, could be about wrestling, could be about coffee, anything really?
Grind your coffee yourself. Don't buy the pre-ground. Keep it in an airtight container. And no, I don't know. So drink it black. Stop putting crap in your coffee. So we I think ultimately we're all snowflakes in a way. Our businesses are very different. Why we get involved in so many groups and not just one group is because we love hearing how other people do things, and ultimately you pick up things along the way. When you read a business book and you understand kind of what the premise of the business book is, you might not necessarily do everything that's in that business book. You pick up the tidbits, right? And so that's the same concept here, where you pick up the tidbits from, you sit down with Charles and you understand, like, Charles is awesome at operations, like understanding kind of the business operations of an MSP. And that's a masterclass, just spending 10, 15 minutes with him to kind of know what's going on. And then you take that and you go to somebody else who's like a master salesperson. You 10, 15 minutes, you learn about what's going on from a sales point of view. All that is, it's hugely, go out and talk to people, try to get out as much as you can. It does two things. One is, it gets you out of your business to kind of think a little bit differently. And then it gets you talking to other people that are in the same boat you are, probably running into the same kinds of problems you are, that can help you solve the same kind of problems that you're getting.
It's great.
And yeah, exactly. My temperature went up with Rafi. I don't know what to say about that. And we to go in the beginning, you had asked who the favorite wrestler was. So there's two things. One, it's a good way just to take a break from the universe, right? Watch people fight over a belt, whatever, right? It's fun. There's two things I like: wrestling and cruising. And the person who does it the best is going to be Chris Jericho, because he does wrestling on a cruise ship. So I get the best of both worlds.
2 for 1.
Yeah, but what I'll tell you, and one thing that my parting wisdom here is, make time for yourself. So when we go cruising, I do not buy the internet package ever. I've been on many, many ships, never bought the internet package. It's a way for me to do my reset, right? And I try to do that once or twice per year, just no internet, no phone, no stuff, whatever. And you come back, you're refreshed. I have some nice ideas, maybe, maybe not, but I had a moment to recharge. It's okay to put the phone away sometimes.
It's great. Yeah, turn those notifications off. Turn
Yep.
it at the very least. If you're not ready to, turn it off and put it in a drawer, at least turn your notifications off on your email.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining. Gonna end things off here, and we'll kick it back to our MCs throughout the day to continue us to our next session.
Take care. Thanks,
guys.
Jimmy.
Thanks.